Hey everyone, this is Austin Schur here with We Write About Music, and today I'm here with Rod Moore of his band, The Rod Moore Band. He's just released his incredibly relatable new single titled Lockdown, and I'm super excited to talk to him about it. Rod, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. What part of the world are you in at the moment?
Vancouver, BC, Canada.
Nice. What's going on over there?
Well, actually, not so nice. It started monsooning this morning, so it's a really
Ah,
gross day. So I'm totally happy to be inside doing this.
that sounds great. Well, I'm based in Los Angeles, so no monsoons over here.
Yeah,
Actually, it looks pretty nice that side,
I
but
bet. Yes.
oh man, that is well, I hope it gets better. But enjoy your day inside for sure.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, normally I like to kick things off with a full-on explanation of the lyrics in the song, but based off my first listen here, they're pretty easy to understand for the most part. So
Yeah.
I think in this case, I'd want to know how's your experience of life been over this past year, and what were the real inspirations that went into this?
Well, I'm aside from music, I'm also in the restaurant industry. So I've spent the last
Ah,
year and several months being at various times closed or under restrictions and struggling to figure out how we're going to make things work. So for me, that lockdown song and some of the lyrics and stuff are extremely personal, even though it's sounds a little bit like a goofy fun pop song with clearly it's obvious what I'm talking about. But
right.
for me it's personal. It's like, oh my god, another lockdown, here we go again. Am I going to make it? Are we going to go bankrupt? It's been that kind of year.
Seriously. What are the restrictions like right now? Like, how's everything going?
They're lifting. So I
Okay.
have a location in Vancouver and one in Toronto as well. And the Toronto side of things has been a lot more of a struggle than here in BC. But we got shut down out here in BC twice, but just recently last week got to reopen again. So it's exciting just to see things finally pointing in the right directions. So
I'm happy to hear that. And you've got this
me
awesome new
too.
song out, so looks like life is looking up a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to talk about the production side of things as well because it's really awesome and it's a really fun song. I love the sort of like 80s synth pop inspiration feel to it, and it
Yeah.
does that little fun switch on the midway through. Is this all you on the production side of things, or do you have any outside help?
Um, the engineer at the studio that I record is definitely a big help.
Okay.
His name is Carl. He's great. It's a great studio. It's a huge board, and he's one of the few guys that knows how to use it. And
Got it.
it's really great to have a guy where you're like, okay, I'm thinking in this part, the song stops and the tempo changes, and then there's this reverse cymbal, and then there's an explosion, and he kind of looks at you and goes, "All right, hang on for a sec." And he changes a few things. He goes, "Like that?" It's like, yeah, exactly like that.
Yeah.
That's great.
See,
So
that's a
it
sign of a
helps
good
to have that.
producer right there.
Yeah.
Someone who can
So
kind of look
otherwise,
into
no,
your
it's just
brain.
just him and me. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I am looking at one of those massive boards. It feels and looks like the most confusing thing ever. So having someone there to
Well,
actually take care of it for you.
who knows how to use it? Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
art form for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, very.
And from what I understand, you're a multi-instrumentalist. Is that correct?
Yeah, I primarily play the keyboard, but I can play a bit of guitar. I can play drums. Drums was my first instrument when I was a kid. So
Nice. Okay, yeah, because I was gonna say the drums and the keyboards, or at least like the synths that are featured on here, definitely the standouts. So was this all you
yeah.
instrumentally, or did you have the producer help as well?
No, that was me. Most of it I started at home and
Okay.
then took it into the studio and sort of augmented it with just kind of bolstered everything up to make it bigger, and then did my vocals and any live piano stuff there in the studio. Um, that studio has two grand pianos and it's a massive
Uh,
sound room, so I can't emulate that at home.
no,
Um,
definitely not.
or even the vocal mics that they have there and stuff. So that stuff I do there, but synth stuff or even guitar stuff, I can do that at home. So that's kind of cool.
Okay.
I can sit there and do take after take after take, and it's not costing me any money,
That's
just my
nice.
time. So yeah,
That's cool though. Yeah, I totally understand. But like I said, the song itself turned out great. It's fun. It's just like, I mean, taking the lyrical context away in the year that everyone's had, like it's kind of this nice juxtaposition of, well, the song sounds fun, but the context isn't so great, but have fun with it
Right.
overall. So I like that.
Yeah, like
Um,
let's just make the best out of this kind of thing. Sure. Yeah.
totally. So this is sort of the obvious question here, but this is your first single release of this year. Have you been working on anything else? And is there anything else in the works for the near future, hopefully?
Yeah, so that single is part of a 4-song EP. So we'll be sort of doling
Nice.
out the next 3 songs over the next few months. And then I'm working on some other stuff, and it's already been
Awesome.
suggested to me to do some Christmas songs, which is so funny.
Okay.
I know that's how it works. If you're going to put out a Christmas song, you have to record it in the summer. So I'll probably tackle that pretty soon too.
Totally. Are you going to be looking to experiment in sound, or are you going to keep it with like that sort of 80s synthy inspiration?
I no, and in fact, you bring up a great point because sometimes I wonder if I should try and sort of focus a bit more. The last EP I put out a couple years ago was more organic, live band off the floor,
Mhm.
saxophone, stuff like that, live drums, everything. And it was more a 50s kind of sound. And this is clearly not. And,
Sure.
I don't know if people really dig this and then you put out something that sounds like something completely different, you might lose people along the way. So I'm still trying to figure out if I should just find a set sound or just do whatever the heck I want because who cares?
I always say you got to do whatever makes you happy. If
Yeah.
you're in the mood for something like more like a new wave-ish sound, then make that. Because
Hmm.
ultimately, if you're not happy with the finished product, then like what's the point? You've spent so much
Right.
time putting it in and creating it and producing it and mixing it. Like if you don't like the final product, it almost doesn't even matter what the others think.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
And also,
So
like you say, oh, I might lose potential people that wouldn't like it, but at the same time you might be gaining new fans who like that sound and will stick around and then explore the others. So
yeah. Well, there's
I
lots of
guess.
great artists that have done this.
Yeah.
You know, Neil Young. I think every record he puts out, it's just like, okay, it's folk. Now it's
Right.
thrash. Now it's whatever. Like,
Yeah.
seems to work for him. Not that I'm Neil
Exactly.
Young, but
But it shows you
yeah,
off as an artist. It shows off your talents and what you're able to do. So I
yeah.
say kind of keep it loose and, do what
All
makes you
right,
happy. That's just
cool.
my one guy's opinion.
Yeah, no, that
Um,
totally helps. That's great.
yeah, I want to know though, like, who are some of your musical inspirations? Because, like you've said, you're making music that is not necessarily all over the place, but different genre influence. So who did you grow up listening to and who are you enjoying today?
Well, as a teenager, I grew up listening to sort of, your token 80s stuff,
Yeah.
but it could be anywhere from the glam quasi metal of Rat or something, Bon Jovi, Aha.
Okay.
I liked all that stuff. Um, in my later teens, I discovered the Beach Boys and I became a huge Brian Wilson fan. So
Mm,
I love his progression from writing super simple songs to pet sounds and smile stuff where it's just kind of out of this world orchestration. So that I
sure.
find that very inspirational. Just the idea of creating great stuff, and growing and trying new things. That's all for me. So he's my biggest inspiration, Brian Wilson, I would say.
That's you know what I've gotten that answer before, and I completely understand it. The guy is genius. Might be a little
Yeah,
bit crazy, but it's just part of the
might be a lot
process.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, maybe a lot crazy, but
Yeah.
it's worked this far, so it's
Yeah.
like keep up the craziness. Um,
Yeah.
one more thing is that aside from the inspirations, was there a specific album in your life that you listened to, and you're like, this is going to push me over to make something for myself? Not necessarily that you want to emulate it, but that you were just so astounded by that record that you wanted to create something for yourself.
Well, the thing that I guess honestly, going back to the same place, the first Beach Boys record I actually heard was the Endless Summer
Uh,
compilation. I did that when I was 16 years old. And I had loved music up to that point. I loved Supertramp, Fleetwood Mac, 80s stuff, 70s stuff. It was the 80s, so I couldn't like anything past that at that point. But
Sure.
then I heard that compilation and all these great songs that sort of had that durability to them, even though they were clearly 60s songs, but they just kind of stick around.
Right.
That's the one record that got me thinking like, okay, I need to kind of figure out how to play a piano because I feel like I want to write songs too. So that those songs were the ones that inspired me to start. And then of course along the way, lots of other stuff shows up, but that would be the starter, I think.
Gotcha. Is there something specifically that you enjoy the most about being an artist and a creative as a whole?
I love being in the recording studio,
Hmm.
laying down tracks, like every aspect of it, anything from live on the floor, trying to get 6 or 7 guys all playing the right song at the right time. And then when you sort of finally click on your fifth or 20th take or whatever it becomes, and you listen to it and go, holy mackerel, we just did that. That sounds so great.
Right.
Or stepping up to the microphone when you're adding vocals and layering vocals, and then you start to really hear the finished product. Because quite often, if you're layering vocals, the first one goes down, you're like, okay, so far this sounds lame. But then once you're on
Of
your
course.
10th or 12th track, you're like, well, it's starting to sound really cool. So that's sort of those kind of results, I think, are just really, really neat.
Awesome. And so of the music that you have put out, and I suppose music that is set to release, is there sort of an overarching message that you feel that your music says about you as a person?
Oh man, I don't know if I could go that far. I've never considered myself really much of a lyricist, and that's where people connect in the most obvious way, I guess. You hear lyrics that
Sure.
mean something to you. And for me, I've never really cared about lyrics. They're just something that has to be there. So if there's something relative or fun you can talk about, great. But for
I
me, it's
get
always
that.
about the production of the music and the melody and the instruments and stuff is always the thing that's moved me the most. Yeah, so a message, I don't know. I think I always just want to put out music that people think is fun. When they listen to it, they say things like, oh, I can really envision driving down the 405 in Los Angeles, looking at the beach, listening to this song with the
There you
top
go.
down. I'm like, that sounds like a perfect day. So that's great, or even if I write a slow song, if someone's having an off day and they listen to that and go, that sad song made me feel better. It's something where it just does something for you and has a reaction as opposed to just, a funky beat where you can jump around to it, but it doesn't mean
Gotcha.
that much. I think that kind of thing.
So music that moves you, music that makes you feel something. That's
Yes.
that's that's a
Yes.
good enough message. I get it. I
Yeah.
mean, when you're making music, are you making music in the headspace of I want to enjoy it in a certain setting, or does it kind of just end up like that?
Yeah. I think it just ends up, honestly, music, um, I guess for anyone that's creative, I'm sure you are in whatever ways you are as well. And maybe you can relate to this when you feel that sort of scratch and you're like, oh, I feel like there's music coming on. I just need to go to my instrument and play a little bit and see
Yeah,
what happens. And then before you know it, you've got this progression, a little bass line happening. Like, yep, here comes the song. It's just coming out. And I've learned to try and instead of controlling that and saying, no, I want to write this kind of song. I usually end up trying to start that way and then it's like get out of your own way. And then before you know it, a
right.
whole other song comes out that's like, well, that's what was actually trying to get out. Turns out it's a ballad, or turns out it's hard rock, or turns out I'm writing a rap song, which has never happened
Right.
before.
Hey,
I just
don't
try and
don't
get out of
count it
my own way.
out.
Yeah,
Can't count
I
out the
won't. I can't
raps.
imagine it'd be very good.
Hey, there's a lot of bad
Yeah.
rap out there. I'm sure you can make something better. So
I could try. Yeah.
try.
Not my bag. Yeah.
Um, well, obviously now is tough because of the restrictions and this and that. But are these songs something that you want to tour or have plans to tour in the future?
Oh, yes, one way or another, even just shows. So
Yeah, just
we do
local
have a group of
shows.
guys. Yeah, so we have been rehearsing a little bit lately.
Oh,
We have a
nice.
rehearsal place that's open and has a really large room. So if whatever the rules are at the time about 6 feet apart or anything, I mean, this room is so big that everyone's a lot more than 6 feet apart, but we
Yeah.
can plug in, everyone's got a microphone. We're working out all the harmonies and everything. In fact, we're getting together tonight. We've got a new saxophone player coming out, so we're stoked that we're kind of getting there.
Oh yeah.
And then hopefully once real live shows start, which I think will be soonish, then we'll be ready. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
That's awesome. Hopefully sometime by the end of this year, I would hope. But who knows
Me
really?
too.
Who
Yeah, who
knows?
knows?
Getting back out
Been
there
a
and
whole year.
putting smiles on people's faces is definitely the end goal for the moment.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. And so kind of speaking on the goals side of things, we are just about halfway through this year, which is crazy. But I want to know, are there any non-musical goals that you've set for yourself? Basically, how are you going to work on yourself as a person aside from the music making?
Wow, good question. Well, I usually have lots of projects on the go in my world. So
Right.
I have three restaurants, one that has yet to ever open its doors for the first time. So I thought I was
Okay.
being clever when I went and got this location ready back in last November, thinking, okay, by December, things will loosen up. We'll be ready to open. And that never happened. So that location has been just sitting there waiting. We finally get to open the outside part
Okay.
next week. And then sometime in the next month, we get to open the inside. And so it was a lot of work to prepare it. So that for me, it's a goal just to get this place open
Yeah.
and start getting some finances going the other way instead of just going out. Some will start to
Yeah,
come in.
of course. No,
Yeah.
I totally understand. You have a life, besides the music, and you got to pay the bills
Yeah.
somehow. What kind of food, if you don't mind me asking? I love going to
Well,
restaurants. So,
it's I have a affinity for tiki culture. So actually my
yeah,
places are all they're all tiki, they're tiki bars. I mean, they're restaurants by definition, but people go there for the ambience and the fancy cocktails
awesome.
primarily. So yeah, yeah, they're fun places, just the music, the decor, the ambience is all very different than your run of the mill place. So, there's a few places in Los Angeles actually like that we really like. So I miss going there. That's for sure. Just in
Right.
general, actually, to Los Angeles. But yeah, so
Totally.
that's the theme. That's kind of what we do.
Awesome. Well, if I'm ever in Vancouver, make sure to look you guys up.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, easy to find.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, I've only got a couple more questions for you at this
Yeah.
point, but I want to know, as far as musical releases, either last year, this year, there's been so much that's come out. What's been on your playlist? What have you been enjoying and listening to?
Interesting. Well, there is a Canadian band up here called the Sam Roberts Band. So,
Uh,
for one example, they put out a new record, I guess last year, but I only discovered it a couple of months ago, and I've listened to that one about 1,000 times, and I
nice.
really like that. Then I do a thing where if I'm hearing a song, I quickly Shazam it, and then I take a picture with my phone, and then I come back to it and uh, look it up and listen to it. So I've discovered a few things. A group. I don't even know if it's a group, but they're called Japanese House. They're
Oh,
kind of
yeah, yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Um, yeah, another band called, I think it's pronounced Always, but it's
With like
spelled
two
more like
V's.
Always.
Yeah,
Yes, that
they're
that. So
great.
they're super cool and still a little underground, but we've
Hmm.
seen them live for this. So
Same. They put on a great
yeah,
show. They really do.
they do, and they've got a very interesting sound, very like
Hmm.
reverby, dreamy, heavy.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's just kind of all over the place. Whatever's on the playlist is
totally.
anything I can find that's kind of neat, like grab it and throw it in there.
I feel you. There's so
So
much out there. First off, it's impossible to keep up with anything new, let alone enjoying the things that you enjoy from the rest of your life. And then actually having
oh
the
yeah,
time to sit down and listen that isn't like on a commute or just at home hanging out. So
right,
it's good that
yeah.
you're getting into new things. It's tough. It can be a full-time job just listening to music.
It it absolutely can, but I agree with you. I think I always I shouldn't say I judge people, but sometimes when they're like, yeah, I don't listen to anything new, all I think is, well, that's unfortunate because you're kind of doing yourself a disservice because there's always
Yeah,
great music that keeps coming out. I guess the problem
totally.
is there's so much of it. It's overwhelming. So
It
you go
is.
back to what you know, but it's like, oh, I'm so glad that I get to keep hearing new stuff that's really great.
Right, right. Yeah, it is never ending. Um, so my
Yeah.
last question for you here is something that I like to ask all the artists when I finish up speaking to them, but it's basically for the person that is going to discover you from this, and for the person that is going to listen to your music for the first time. What is a message that you would like to pass off to them?
Well, I guess for starters, if they're listening to me, I would say thank you. That's great. If
There
they
you
like the
go.
music, I would say thanks for that as well. Because that's huge. Like just having, I'm always grateful for having any kinds of fans at all. Anyone that's like, as soon as you say you put out a new song, they're like, I just downloaded it today. I'm listening to it while I'm shopping. Just like
Amazing.
that is an honor. It's really great. So I guess that would be my thing. It's just like, thank you so much. That's
Totally.
it's a real honor. Yeah.
I love that. I mean, yeah, I personally have never put out music, but if even one person said that they liked it genuinely, I feel like all the work was worth it. So
I agree with that. That's
that's
right. It's
awesome.
good to remember stuff. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree. Rod, thank you so much for coming on. I'm really happy that we can make this work. For everyone else out there, Lockdown is out, the Rod Moore Band. Check them out. Honestly, it's going to put a smile on your face. It's really happy sounding music. But also I'm looking forward to the rest that's going to come out in the subsequent weeks. So thank you so
Yeah.
much again. And I look forward to speaking again soon.
Thank you, Austin. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, man. Have a great rest of your day.
Okay, you as
All
well.
right. We'll see
Bye.
ya. Bye bye.